What we have up here on the table are samples that have already been flame painted. I have them with different textures. These guys over here this texture was done with a ball burr. These textures were done with hammers and countersinking tools. These were done with a rolling mill and ribbon. And then this was just a texture added to the work with a texture wheel. We then, in the class, overlay it with argentium sterling silver, and because titanium, which is what we're working with, cannot be soldered, they're drilled and a ball burr, and then they're set with a ball rivet from the bottom, so that it's comfortable to wear and it's easy to set because you're working on the outside, not the inside. So this is titanium, the same thing they're making hips, knees, and shoulders out of. Who knew they could be all these colors? The wonderful, it can also be anodized like niobium, but niobium cannot be flame painted like titanium. It's, and that's the thing that it drew me to it, was the fact that I don't have to do it in an anodized electric bath. I can just let the torch guide the colors. I'd like to say I control the colors, but I don't. I get a color I like, and then I can move on. What's interesting is that these jewel tones, these blues, that bronze and kind of coppery color, and the purples are the early colors. They're the first colors you get. The pastels, like the pinks and the greens, and the light blue, excuse me, are the late colors, which seems opposite to me. The wonderful thing about titanium is that it's not a very good conductor of heat, so you can put one color in a space and then right next to it put another color and not change it. If any of you have ever colored flame painted copper, you know the challenge of once the copper gets hot and you move over here, it can heat the other one and change the color of what you've done before. The titanium doesn't do that. So you can literally come in with one color and then move next to it and do another color and not change that first one. The titanium is lightweight, it's hypoallergenic, it's not terribly expensive, it's a little more than copper, but it's a lot less than silver. And the other colorable metal, the niobium, is more expensive than sterling. So it's like, I'd rather go with cheaper. The other fun thing about it is that you, and what we're doing is changing the color of the surface with the torch. And it's just a light refraction, see if I can say that, that brings out the brilliance of that. The wonderful thing is that if you get done with your piece and you don't like it, you can sand it off and do it again. So it's not a one and done kind of thing. I've put over here a bracelet that has a fused argentium silver frame on the top, and then I've left just what the metal looks like when it's raw. And on this one, I've textured it. Then the thing that we need to do is clean it. So clean it with Dawn and water and alcohol to get any of the extra residue, or it'll change the way it paints. So what I did as an experiment today, I've not done it with something this small, but the smaller the flame, the better control you have. So I thought I'd see if it worked, and this was my test strip. So I'd say it was successful. I like the results better when it's kind of floating with the air behind it. You can put it flat on a brick or flat on a charcoal, but what happens is the heat retention of the brick or the charcoal tends to help encourage the color, the heat temperature of your metal, and it may go past the color you want. So I prefer setting it so that it's has air behind it. That way what you're doing is controlling the color. And it's not a fast thing unless you like, if you like the pink and the yellow and the green, just go right at it. But if you like the elusive purples and blues, you're gonna have to be patient. So let me get this done. Oops, this is a guy. I don't want that. So a low, small flame, I think, is easier to control. I've done it with a bigger one. But what I'm gonna do is just basically lightly come over here, and I'm using the flame about an inch in front of this blue tip. That's the most turbulent part of the flame. And I'm just lightly coming over, can you see with your work there for them to see? And just heating it slightly. And then what I'm gonna do is take it away and let the metal catch up with the heat. Because sometimes you've been heating and you don't stop and let it catch up, and it goes right by the color you want. The very first thing we're gonna get is a light gold or bronze, a light bronze, and then it'll go into that darker coppery bronze color. The yellow that's in there is a much later color. And can you see the gold starting in here? So that pale gold is our first color. And the next thing we're going to get is the purple. And you can blow right by purple in a nanosecond. The other thing that I like to do is sometimes come down along the edge here and see if I can't get a different color on the edges. Can you see the purple? Can you guys see any of it? And then the next color past purple is this really wonderful royal blue. And if you blow past that, if you blow past that blue, you get a light blue. And then, you can experiment with just trying to touch different points in the thing, but on the metal. But I just say, take it away and let the metal catch up with the amount of heat you've put on it. And sometimes you get a little impatient, and then it shows you that you've stayed on it too long, and it goes past what you're after. Is this like watching paint dry? There's a blue that follows the purple. If you can see it right there. And for all you type A's who don't have the sense of patience to do this part, I'll come down here and demo high speed overdrive. That'll blow right through all those colors and go to the pastels. It just seems odd to me that to get a pastel is a late color. Well, there's that blue and purple that I was trying to get up there so carefully. So see them? So. And I'll heat the metal to glowing to get those pastels. So if you can see that we're beginning to move from this light blue, the next color from that light blue is yellow. And then after yellow is pink. So you can kind of see the pink inside the yellow. And then the last color is a light green, a kind of a mint green. And the other thing you can do is that if you want one of these pastels in the center, but you want the darker colors on the edges, paint to the color, the hot color, then sand off the color where you want the early color and come back and do it again. There's the green. You see the green? So, looks like that, if you've been to Yellowstone, the one pool there. The one hot. Yeah. And then my students have heard me talk about, because this dark blue is my favorite, and I like the purple, but it's very elusive, and it goes very quickly to this turquoise, which is a nice color, but I always tell them that it's a color that makes me sad because it means I've passed the one I was after. And I'm doing this with no particular pattern, I'm just trying to. And I did fill this torch, I hope it'll last through the demo. And this is the first time I've done it with one of these, but it seems to do the job. I like a smaller tip because you have more control. It's hard to get these early colors if you've got something that only goes at a high heat. It does not fade. It does not need to be sealed. You can put it through a tumbler. So those things are its pluses. It can be scratched. So you can scratch the surface and change the color. And, scratch it and see a scratch mark. That's why we put the overlay on it, mostly to protect it, to keep it from being vulnerable. But on something like the earrings I have on, it's not gonna matter. I'm just trying to fill in some spaces with something interesting. So, any questions other than that?
I'm not familiar with titanium. Can you cut it with a saw easily?
We're cutting it with a jeweler's saw. The one other negative is that it dulls your saw blade, it dulls your drill bits. The other thing is that it's created in a vacuum, so you cannot anneal it. What you have is the way it's going to be, because you don't have the ability to re-soften it. So we basically work on it until it doesn't want to work anymore, and then we just finish it up and set it. So this one up here again is up in the more pastels. Again, and what you're seeing me do is come back over these light colors like this brown. I can come back over here and heat it a little more and move it to the next color, the purple or the blue. So just because I heated it to that bronze color at the beginning and I stopped, doesn't mean I can't come back here and move it up some more. So I think I've got something colored on all of this. It's not necessarily the most of the titanium. I am not sure. Way ahead of anything I have. So what I wanted to do is let you see what this does with the texture, and you're just going to need to, and you see the reflection. Does that show for everybody? Okay, the other interesting thing is you also color the back side. And sometimes the back is more interesting than the front. So. So what this taught me by what we get on the back is I tend to texture both sides so that you have something interesting on the back side and a surprise as well. So other questions? It comes in sheet 22 and 26 gauge. The main provider is Reactive Metals. They don't have ordering on the website. You have to call and talk to a person. But they have 22 and 26 gauge. They also have wire. If you would want to work with the wire, it follows the same process. And again, it can't be annealed and it can't be soldered. So all of the things that you're wanting to do with it, you need to think about it being a layer of something, or be riveted, or tab set, or bezel set. But that's why all your solder picks are made out of titanium. And then on the earrings, let me just grab these. So what I've done here is just added an element of like silver to it, and then kind of looped them together with a ball rivet. So these are those pastel colors. But you see that my favorite happens to be those jewel tones, because that's what everything is. I've tried to do the others so that you guys have samples. So, any questions? Could you see okay from that? Okay. You're more than welcome to come up and look at this. And this is now cool enough to touch, so. Say what? No, in fact, I generally let it air cool. Yeah, you pick this up. Here, let me just. So what I was trying to do was, so this is a fused argentium, sterling silver, and you can make multiply. This took 7 passes, so it's not like you have to worry about the solder joint prior melting, because there isn't one. And then I had shaped this to go in it. And the students last week said, "Ooh, wouldn't that be fun if it could be changeable?" And it's like, well, that could be good, but I'd have to figure out a way to hold it in place. Mm-hmm. So, but this was mostly just to be able to demonstrate what it looks like when it started. And then I brought a bracelet former. Oh, and the other, it can run through the tumbler. When we were making the bracelets last week, using this bracelet former, one of the students put blue tape on the end just to keep it from getting scratched. What I have them do is all of the work you're going to do on the piece, do it before you paint with the torch. So you've got the chance to get everything cleaned up that could get scratched with a drill bit or whatever, and then do the painting. But she didn't want it to get scratched here, and when she took the tape off, this was shinier than this was. So it has a little bit of an oxidation of some sort on it. It comes off in the tumbler, and you could take it off with alcohol. When we clean it before we paint it, if I didn't say this, wash with Dawn and water and then clean with alcohol. So, and then I was just gonna, it's kind of springy. So, you know, again, it can't be annealed, but you can shape it. So I've gotten it started on that, and then what I would do is just physically form that part.
Is that the 22 or the 26?
I'm using the 22. I just think it's a little stronger for forming a bracelet. The 26 is pretty thin. Oh, and then that one pair of earrings right down there at the end.
The fold?
The fold form. Mm-hmm. So the truth is, you can fold form it. It can be folded. It can't be unfolded. So it's like, once it's done, that's where it's staying.
You fold it before or after?
I did all of the work before painting.
Before.
This had a texture on it and then fold formed. So,
So interesting.
isn't that fun? And then on this one, you can see what, so here's the front of this, with these jewel tones, but look what happened on the back side. And the reason I had the texture back there was that originally I had thought I was going to put that on the top and I thought it was too busy. So I went over and just did kind of a more, a softer finish. And then when I painted it and found that it all came through, I now do that on purpose.
That's really cool. Wow.
Any other questions?